So Anna and Ramon, welcome to the first of our Rule of Life Toolkit sessions. And thank you so much for agreeing to do this for us. I really appreciate it. I know that you've been members of St Mary's for many years in different ways over the years. And today you've agreed to just talk to us about this idea of practicing the presence of God. And I know that this is not a new idea, is it? It's an idea that goes back a very long way, back to the 1600s, and a monk called Brother Lawrence, who wrote a very short book about it. But what does it mean to you? What does this idea of practicing the presence of God mean to you?
You can start.
I think for me, it's the whole way I live my life. So it's just like my DNA now. And I think I was kind of privileged as a child to have that sense, and though I've come and gone with it, for me it has become the way I live.
So I guess my one thought about this is that it is to do with our whole lives, and it's obviously to do with our relationship with God. And the example I was thinking of the other day is like when I married Anna. I married her because I wanted to be with her. I wanted to do things with her. Everything that we could do, I wanted to do it with her, and I wanted to share my life with her. I didn't get married to her because I wanted to become a married person and live a married lifestyle. Those things were just what happens. It was basically, I just wanted to spend time with Anna. And I kind of see that in the same way with God, that I basically want to be able to spend my life with him. I want to share my life with him. I want him to be part of every part of my life. Everything that I do, everywhere I go, all my thoughts and my words and everything, basically. And so in that sense, it's my thought and my objective to do with practicing the presence of God is really just having a walk with God, a relationship with God, which is aiming for a everyday conversational style of relationship with him that includes him in everything and every time throughout the day and night.
I'm glad you're in agreement. So can you give us an example? What does this look like in practice?
Do you want to go?
Shall I go first?
You go first. Yeah.
I mean, as I was saying, I aim for it to be part of every part of my life. So one of the really important things, I think, is having margin in our lives, having space and time in our lives, rather than rushing from one thing to another. So for me, if I'm making a cup of tea, or I've just got a couple of minutes off, and I've got time just to think and reflect, and that's not to do anything serious or anything. It's just literally, I haven't had a cup of tea for an hour yet, have I? It's whatever my thoughts are. I try to aim those thoughts as if they're a conversation to God, and they could be about anything, a mundane thing or a very important thing, but my aim would be to have that conversation in the spaces of my thoughts, and to ensure that my day has space in it in order to have those thoughts. And sometimes it will just be literally 30 seconds, and other times it will be an intentional time of sitting down and spending, a specific time talking with God. But otherwise, it's really sort of the everyday, minute by minute. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And Anna, I know when we've spoken about this before, you've spoken about it being a very mundane and everyday kind of practice for you.
So mundane. Yeah, I think it is a discipline. And I think Ramon's right. If you get so busy or let yourself get stressed, then you don't walk that way in a way. So it's making sure that you don't. But I think for me, it's intentional, and it's learning to ask God to come into whatever you're doing. So like if you're with somebody and you're having a conversation, stepping back and just saying, well, I've had that thought. Is that a helpful thought, Lord, before I speak it out? Is that going to build them up or pull them down? Or if I'm working with somebody, and they're learning a new skill or they're doing something, it's like, Lord, letting them go, releasing people into things. So it's thinking when I start the day, if I've got a day where I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be doing, I might say, Lord, is there anything on your heart or mind you'd like me to do today? So those are kind of big things. But then it can just be, I was just reminded of when the girls were a lot younger, and I was like peeling potatoes, and I was having a conversation with God about prayer, just as I was peeling potatoes, and I asked him a specific question. I was sort of learning about different ways of praying, and I said, and I just felt him say, it's like you've got a potato peeler, and that's what you do with a potato. And sometimes prayer takes different sorts of prayers, because I was a bit unsure about what was happening. So it was kind of, yeah, it's just bringing him in lots of different ways. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah it's the mundane, but it's also just enjoy. I think it's learning to believe that he wants to spend his time in a relationship with you, that you can come at any time, like you can to a loving parent. That he loves it when you turn your heart to him, then he responds more. The more you turn your heart to him, the more he responds to you. In a way. The more you realize that he's with you. Yeah.
I know that this has been a long journey for both of you, really, and what we're getting is the fruit of many years of kind of learning and hard work and growing in your faith as well. What would you say to someone who really this has not been part of their practice of being a Christian at all, but they'd like to kind of give it a go or start somehow?
So I mean, there's so many things that we could talk about, really, isn't there, in this whole area? I mean, on the foundation of basically this is to do with having a walking with God type relationship, conversation relationship. Just one or two very easy practical things that we've learned to do is doing a sort of consecrating type prayer every morning, every evening, before going to sleep. It's very simple. Anyone can do it. You basically, in summary, you give everything and you give everyone to God. And, you might be quite specific about certain people. It might be people that are particularly on your heart, and it literally might take a minute. But your last kind of intentional thoughts before you fall asleep would be to consecrate the day, to give God the day, give everything that's happened in the day and the people that you've been with. And it doesn't have to be a spoken out loud thing. It can be in your thoughts, in your head. And again in the morning to do the same thing. So if nothing else happens, if you don't pray or anything else throughout the whole day, at least you have twice a day, you have consecrated your whole day and everything to God. And everything that he's put into our own domain, if you like, our house and car and our family and friends and everything that's part of that's in our domain to do. Just consecrate it to God very simply as a starting point. And then whatever happens between the morning and the evening, it'd be great to build in some other things. But I also think
enjoy being with God. So like the things that you love, God loves, and realizing that nothing is too little. So like if you're enjoying looking at a flower, or enjoying watching your children play, or enjoying your dog, just saying thank you for those things. I think for me, thankfulness is really important for me. That you come into God's courts by praise, and that's not a law. It's by learning to be thankful that somehow releases God's presence. I think even when things are really tough, we've had many tough times in our life, but ask God to give you a thankful heart, I think, so that it's amazing how being thankful, not unrealistic, not pretending things aren't bad, but just looking for the good things, and saying thank you for those, having and asking, and also asking him to, even if you find that difficult, saying, Lord, I don't feel thankful. Please, will you change me so that I can become thankful? It's not up to you. It's God's work in you. All those things. Yeah.
One thing that reminds me of is in this time where we've been having lockdowns, we've been taking some really great walks out and around from Chippy, and when you just get out into the creation, get out into the countryside, see the natural beauty around, that I find that just brings me into God's presence a lot more easily. And there's so many beautiful things to be thankful for, like Anna was saying, and being quite specific about small things and big things and everything, and that just grows a whole sense of God's presence with you. When you're being thankful about all the marvelous things He's created, that He's created for us.
Yeah. Well, I'm thankful very much for you two this evening. Thank you for your wisdom and your love for Jesus that you've shared with us. And as you've said, we're just scratching the very tip of a very enormous iceberg. But thank you, and bless you in your walk with Jesus.